It was a Thursday evening, and the sky outside was painted with golden hues of the setting sun. My husband, David, had just left for a 3-day business trip in Atlanta. He had kissed me on the cheek before he walked out the door, his suitcase in hand, and reminded me to rest while he was away. "Don't wear yourself out cleaning and cooking, Maddie," he had said with a wink. I smiled and waved as he drove off, not realizing how different the next 24 hours would be. Our son, Jordan, had just turned 19 a few months earlier. He was in college, living on campus for the most part, but he occasionally came home on weekends. Since David was going to be gone, I figured I'd get some quality time with my son, maybe cook his favorite chicken Alfredo, and binge-watch some of those detective shows we both liked. Jordan arrived a little past 6. He looked a bit tired, but he smiled when he saw me at the door. "Hey, Mom," he said, pulling me into a warm hug. He smelled like his usual mix of body spray and the faint scent of his old hoodie. I tousled his hair like I always did, and he laughed, pulling away gently. "You still do that," he said, shaking his head. I noticed he seemed quieter than usual, but I didn't think much of it. We had dinner together in the kitchen, the warm glow of the overhead light making the place feel cozy. He barely touched his food, which was unusual. "Something on your mind?" I asked, watching him stir his pasta more than eat it. He hesitated, then shrugged. "Just college stuff. Finals coming up. It's all kind of piling up." I nodded. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but don't keep it all in. You can talk to me, you know." He gave me a half smile. "I know, Mom. Thanks." After dinner, I started cleaning up the kitchen while he went upstairs to take a shower. I was putting away the dishes when I heard a loud thud from above, like something heavy had fallen. I froze for a moment, my heart skipping a beat. "Jordan," I called out. No answer. I walked upstairs quickly, my socks sliding a little on the polished hardwood steps. When I got to his room, the door was slightly ajar. I knocked gently before pushing it open. Jordan was standing there, rubbing his shoulder. One of his old trophies had fallen off the shelf. "Just slipped while I was grabbing my shirt," he said. But there was something in his eyes, something uneasy. "You okay?" I asked, stepping inside. Yeah, just startled me." I helped him put the trophy back on the shelf. The silence in the room felt heavy, and I tried to brush it off. "Why don't we watch something together?" I asked. "Just the two of us?" He nodded after a beat. "Sure." We went back downstairs, curled up on the couch. I brought us some popcorn, and we settled in to watch a mystery series we both enjoyed. But even as the suspense built on the screen, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different with Jordan. He wasn't laughing at the jokes or reacting to the twists like he normally would. Halfway through the second episode, he paused the show. I turned to him, a little surprised. "You okay?" He looked at me, eyes searching. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." He hesitated, then said, "Do you ever feel like you're misunderstood? Like people expect you to be someone you're not?" The question caught me off guard, but I nodded slowly. "I think everyone feels that way at some point. Why do you ask?" He took a deep breath. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I have to hide parts of myself, even from you and Dad." "Jordan, honey," I said, reaching out to hold his hand. "You never have to hide who you are from us. We love you no matter what." His grip tightened slightly, and he looked down. "I know, but it's not always that simple." There was a long silence between us, the only sound being the low hum of the fridge from the kitchen. Finally, he looked up again, his voice soft. "I just wanted to be here this weekend because I needed to feel safe. Being home feels like that." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "I'm so glad you're here, Jordan." He smiled, a real one this time. "Me too." That night, after we turned off the TV, I noticed he lingered in the living room. I went upstairs to get ready for bed, figuring he needed a few moments alone. I was brushing my hair when I heard a knock on the door. "Come in," I called. Jordan stepped in, rubbing the back of his neck. "Sorry to bug you. I just didn't feel like sleeping yet." I patted the edge of the bed. "Come sit." He sat down, and for a while, we just talked. About life, about his dreams, about fears he'd never voiced before. He told me he wasn't sure if he wanted to continue with his current major. He wanted to pursue art, but he felt like that would disappoint his dad, who always envisioned him working in tech. I assured him that no matter what path he chose, his happiness was what mattered most. At some point, I must have dozed off mid-conversation. I woke up briefly and saw that Jordan had fallen asleep sitting up next to me, his head tilted back against the wall. I gently eased him down so he could rest more comfortably, pulling a blanket over him. I didn't want to disturb him. It had been a long day, emotionally more than anything. The next morning, I woke up early and made pancakes. The smell of maple syrup must have drawn Jordan into the kitchen. He looked better, rested, more like himself. "Morning," he said with a yawn. "Morning, kiddo." He grinned and sat down at the table. "Thanks for everything last night, Mom." "Really? Anytime." We spent the rest of the morning in the backyard, drinking coffee and laughing like we hadn't in a while. It was one of those rare moments that reminded me how quickly kids grow up and how precious the time we get with them really is. Later that evening, as he packed his bag to head back to campus, he hugged me tight. "I feel better now," he said. "You can always come home when you need to. No questions asked." He nodded, and I watched as he drove away, waving out the window. When David returned 2 days later, I told him about Jordan's visit, though I didn't go into every detail. Some of it felt sacred, like a private heart-to-heart that was just between me and my son. But I did tell him that Jordan had been thinking about switching majors. David seemed surprised at first, but then supportive. "As long as he's happy," he said. That weekend, my son reminded me of something I already knew, but sometimes forgot in the hustle of daily life. That being a mom isn't just about rules or routines. It's about being present when it matters most, listening without judgment, and making sure your child knows that no matter how far they go, they'll always have a place to come back to. And maybe it wasn't the most dramatic story. Maybe it wasn't the kind of twist people expect when they hear a title like, "You Won't Believe What My Son Did." But for me, it was everything. Because what Jordan did, opening up, trusting me, letting me in, was something I'll never forget. He reminded me that love sometimes comes quietly, in late-night talks and unspoken fears, in pancakes on a Saturday morning, and in the simple act of showing up. And in that moment, when my husband wasn't home and it was just me and my son, I witnessed a kind of strength in him that made me prouder than ever to be his mom.